Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendell Jones, and welcome to this edition of the program, The Platform. On this program, we examine national issues. And you would have heard a whole lot about the government high school. Well, on our program today, we are going to be speaking with the graduating class, some members of that class of 1966. They are celebrating their 50th anniversary as a class, a graduating class. And on our program today, we are going to be speaking with Roosevelt Finlyason, Dorsey McPhee, Marilyn Zonicle, and Lana Munnings Basalyga. Basalyga. All right, that funny name. Basalyga. All right, so they have been out of government high school now for 50 years. And they say they are still very young, and they're doing some wonderful things, having a number of events to celebrate their 50th anniversary, a class reunion of sorts. And it's our pleasure to have them on the program today. Welcome to the program. Nice to see you.
Good to be here.
Good to who is the leader of this auspicious occasion? Basalyga. Okay.
Carl Brennan couldn't be here, so I guess a small group started it. Carl Brennan and myself were the ones who were getting in touch with everyone, making sure that we found as many people as possible because they're scattered all over the United States and in Nassau and the different islands. And they have different names now.
Yes.
So we had to find out the maiden names and the cousin and this and that. But we found 118 possible.
118 people who
phone numbers, and most of them, I'm proud to say, have email addresses. And
let me say that it was a funeral too that really brought it home to us that we better have something because
yes, it's true.
Our members were just dwindling one by one. So I think the funeral of Hepburn was the last funeral,
Yes.
and then it was
Kenneth Bethel?
Charles Hepburn.
Charles
Okay.
Stumpy Hepburn.
Mm.
And then Kenneth Bethel was the last person. So we thought that it's best that we have a reunion. And this was going to be our 50th year, so why not 50-year reunion?
And how many people are going to be in this celebration? How many people are left from the class of 66?
Only 12 have died.
Only 12.
And we're going to have, so far I think we have people committed to come to the functions, maybe about 80. Up to 80 people have responded. They're coming. We have some coming from the States, Vancouver, and she bought a ticket. She said, I can't miss this. And it's just going to be wonderful to see each other. I can't wait to tell them the tricks Algernon and Allen used to play on me. And he was a bad boy in class.
Yes.
But he was bright and he was wicked, so you couldn't dislike him. You always had to forgive him.
Not just only Algernon. There's a very illustrious Bahamian today. You wouldn't like to know what he used to do. Maurice Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Chobo, not Chizo.
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 And they have nicknames too. We
Yes.
trying to remember all the nicknames on here.
Okay. And well, Rosie Finlayson, I saw a photograph with you looking very distinguished, even as a little boy in government high school. You were one of the youngest in the class, eh? Pretty close.
I think there might have been one.
Well, Algernon Allen told me that he was the youngest young boy in the class.
Maybe him and Aloysius, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And Julie Burnside, I think, too, was one of the younger ones. Julie Burnside.
I can't remember.
A whole lot of successful people came out of the government high school. And GHS were the people, the students or the graduates, were leaders in this society for a long time, especially in the post-colonial era of the Bahamas. You feel that in terms of the people in your set, 1966, because you've had a whole lot of people who came out from Sir Lyndon, Sir Cecil, and Sir Kendall, and the list goes on and on. that the standard of government high has diminished, eh?
Well, we have a new government high. What I find interesting is in the times we went there, it was highly selective getting in. And that was good and bad. It was good in that you only took the best from the different schools.
You're one of 80, I understand.
Yes, and I think at some earlier points it was even smaller.
Yes,
Smaller
yes,
number.
yes.
So 800 people would have taken an examination.
I don't know, but
I'm told.
Yes,
at least 300, 400, 500.
900. When I sat, the number was 900.
Is that right?
And there were 90 seats, places available at that time. I specifically remember that.
So they always took 10%, I guess, of the number, because somebody told me 800, and 1 year they took 80. Now you say 900, and they took 90.
It was 90. Three
Okay.
classes. I remember that.
It was really wonderful because when we went there too, the new school where COB is now opened in 1960. And as Dorsey reminded me, they were changing over the school year.
Yes.
And I waited an extra year in Southern Senior so that I could go to Government High. I wouldn't go to St. John's, wouldn't go to QC. I waited an extra year so I could go to that school.
Oh, tell me why. Why you waited?
I always heard such great things about Government High students, about the people who came out of that school, what they were, what they had become. I'd heard good things about St. John's too, and QC. But QC was, a little challenge in that they were very selective in who they took as well. But I would have been able to go there because of some connection.
You had some connection.
Yes, my father knew the people there, and I would have gone there.
Okay.
But I waited. I told my parents I wanted to wait to go to that new school. The building was beautiful. They were going to have new science labs. They were going to have language labs. I mean, there were so many exciting things in that particular new school that I wanted to wait. And I was young enough to wait another year. But that school was so well organized. The people were so disciplined. Everyone who was there to learn.
Tell me, did you feel, Ms. Zonicle, as if you were a privileged student in Government High?
Not at the time. Not in one sense, yes, because as Dorsey said, all of us had to sit the common entrance exam. And in all humility, not only did I pass, but I was able to get a scholarship because I was the eldest of 13, and there was no way my parents could have afforded for me to go to high school, far less Government High. So to answer your question, yes, you had a sense of accomplishment, but only afterward did you truly appreciate the privilege and what the value that you gained from that school.
What about you, Dorsey? You felt privileged being a student at GHS?
Absolutely. When I passed for Government High, that was the biggest thing in my lifetime at that point in time. Wearing that blue and white, my elder brother, who was 20 years older, senior to me, had been to Government High, and Dr. McPhee, and he was already a medical doctor at that time. So I had a legacy that was passed on. And he had a reputation of being a very bright fellow, and I was expected to be as bright as he was. So passing for Government High, that was definitely a feather in my cap. I even got my first trip as a prize, my first trip to Miami, because I'd passed Government High, and that was a gift to me for passing to Government High. I got to go to Miami.
Wonderful.
I'll never forget that.
So why not SAC? Why not St. John's? Why not one of the other schools?
I had passed for SAC. The same time your brother Hawk had. But at that time, SAC was a all-male school and no girls. And
8 a.m.
from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So for me, that was a no-brainer. No girls.
Yes.
12 hours a day. and Government High, the opportunity to wear blue and white.
But you were at Okra Hill, weren't you?
That's right.
You were closer to SAC than you were
Possibly.
to Government High.
But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I would ride my bicycle or whatever, or hitchhike a ride, but I got there.
You got to
and
school.
early too. You had to be early too. So that was a pleasure.
What was the in terms of the number of students in the entire school? Because the school was those schools were in terms of enrollment smaller then than they are now, eh?
Well, I think if you do the math, we had from 1 to Form 5, Form 6 as well. So 90 times 5 would be the number of students that would have been there.
Mm.
But I think, excuse me, many classes only had like 20,
Yeah.
15 in the higher classes.
Okay.
When they moved from Nassau Court, they moved with, I was just reading this book, put out by another class who graduated
In
I think,
1998.
50s.
This is 1998, Nassau Court.
Yeah, that's the 98 reunion, but I
Okay.
think they graduated in like 50-something.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Cordell Thompson, etc.
Yes, yes.
Cordell Salathiel Thompson. But they had 300 students when they moved there.
Mhm.
And it grew
Okay.
a little because we had extra classes.
I heard a whole lot about the principles of Government High. Dean Peggs, I heard old-timers talk a whole lot of stories about this man, Mr. Peggs. Then there was C.W. Bethel.
C.V. Bethel.
C.V. Bethel?
Yes, that's Bethel.
So who was the principal during your time?
He was.
Yeah, two, but wasn't he the second one, right?
Hugh,
No, he was still a teacher.
well, Davies was the first one. I think he was there for a year when we went. And then Mr. Bethel.
Yes.
And then Mr. Sands, Hugh Sands.
Yes.
Right. And we had teachers like Kevin Bethel, Marjorie Davis. These were excellent educators.
Marion St. George.
Yes, she was my music teacher.
Mrs. Thomas.
Whoever's Bain taught you?
His first name.
Last couple of years.
Thomas.
Mrs. Thomas, she was
Yes.
the literature.
Yes,
Right.
English and
So
Godwin.
Arlington Butler taught math as
Right.
well as physical education.
Mm-hmm.
Miss
Interesting combination.
Miss
Yeah.
Jean
Arlington Butler.
Arlington Butler.
Yes,
And talking
Before he went into politics, he
Yes.
was a teacher at Government High.
that's right.
Okay.
And talking about teachers, if I may, they made the studying and education interesting and challenging.
Challenging.
For example, there was, I think it was Mr. Sales. He had us, no, it was the math teacher. He had us plotting the path of Sputnik from Earth to the moon.
Mr. Knifton?
Knifton,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
And then he also had us doing our own logarithm tables. I mean, he made it so interesting. But the irony is, I sat 8 GCO levels, 9 rather, and I only got 8. I failed math. Why? Because I was so caught up in the glamour of it. I didn't do this, because he didn't teach us the syllabus. Persons
That's
like,
right.
He taught us these things
That's right.
rather than the syllabus. And our colleague Paul, who was in Freeport at the pharmaceutical company, who said he couldn't come. No, Paul.
Lockhart.
Lockhart.
He was smart
He's an
enough. You know
engineer.
what he did? He got the syllabus from the other forms, and he studied the syllabus so he could pass.
Mm.
I remember Mr. Knifton.
Yes.
He messed up a lot of things.
Yes,
He
and
messed
I
up a
was
lot
one
of.
of them.
Me too. He actually built observatory.
That's
remember?
That's right,
He was
that's right.
to look at
Right
the
on the
stars.
field.
That's how far out he was.
Exactly.
He was
And-
excellent.
And didn't concentrate on the syllabus.
No. So
But I understand the quality of teaching was extremely high in those days. You had some of the best teachers in the country. And you had some of the best teachers because it was the government high school, a school owned and operated by the government of the Bahamas. And in those days, I believe the then government placed a lot of emphasis on that particular school, eh?
On that school, yes.
Because, please, Lucy.
What I like to say is, I think what, for me, what made Government High very, very special, a couple things. Number one was that you could do science and you had labs,
Yes.
okay? Most of the other high schools at the time, I think, didn't have the kind of labs, Well, I know for sure one of them did not, because I would visit there because that's where my brother went. So you had facilities that could facilitate you studying science, and also talk about the observatory. I'm not sure if it was ever finished, but just the fact that it was there,
That we were working on it.
it helped us to become interested in astronomy.
That's right.
The other thing is playing areas. Now, I remember when we first went there, we had to sort of make them fields ourselves.
That's
We
right.
had to go pick rocks up
Exactly,
ourselves.
right. But the point is, we had the space there, and we ended up with good playing areas. So we had good laboratories, good teachers, and overall facilities.
Mm.
And I think that the idea then was like almost like we was going to a university. In fact, I remember me and Mike Smith was hitchhiking to school one morning, and this was like right after the government change. So a man gave us a ride, and he wanted, a white man, he wanted to engage us in a conversation about the change and so on, and we didn't say that much. But he asked us something like what type of degree we would get. We were sort of struck like, we don't think we get anything among ourselves,
Right.
you know. But I mean, that's the way some people thought, a lot of people thought of government high. That was
Yeah.
a place you could get almost a degree from. I just think for me, the sad thing is that we ended that highly academic institution, which produced leaders, and some of those same leaders were the ones who killed the government high school.
It was an elite high school, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
but having an academic elite school like that, where people who, like me, could get in. I wasn't a part of the elite. Plenty of us were not a part of the elite. We might have been in the academic elite, but we were not a part of the social elite.
Yes.
And it gave us an opportunity to get an education that we would have never been able to get. And in fact, there were people in my family who was wondering, like, well, why y'all talking about our parents? Like, why y'all let them, these boys, they should go out and work. Why y'all let them go to high school?
Yeah.
Say, no, they're going to get this opportunity. So me, Hawk, Alphys, and then Joseph, he passed many years ago, and then Spence. Four of us, we got high school education, and basically we didn't have to pay anything much for it. All of them got scholarships.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a huge shift in the country.
We,
And
we,
the fact is still being felt now.
okay, we're going to talk about that and talk about the role that all of you played when there were winds of change in this country. But let's take this break in the program. We'll come right back.